They called him hopeless. A billionaire's son, drowning in shame, failing every test despite having the best tutors money could buy. His father had almost given up on him. But one ordinary day, while sitting in the empty school hallway, a black janitor carrying a mop leaned over and spoke just 11 words to him. Those words didn't just help him pass a test, they rewrote his destiny. This is not just a story about wealth or education, it's about how wisdom can come from the most unexpected places. Ethan Wallace had everything a teenager could dream of: wealth, privilege, and opportunities that most kids could never even imagine. His father, Richard Wallace, was a billionaire real estate mogul, known for his towering skyscrapers and endless fortune. The Wallace family name carried power. It was whispered in boardrooms and printed in business magazines across America. But beneath the glitter of all that wealth was Ethan, a 16-year-old boy who seemed cursed with failure. No matter how many tutors were hired, no matter how many private lessons were arranged, Ethan failed every test, every subject, every evaluation. Teachers grew tired, tutors quit, and his father's patience wore thin. Richard Wallace was not a man who accepted failure easily, and to have his only son constantly at the bottom of the class was something that bruised his pride deeply. Ethan himself had stopped trying. He would sit in the classroom with his head down, doodling in his notebook, pretending to read, pretending to care. Deep inside, he believed what everyone around him said, that he was a disappointment, a shadow who could never step into his father's world. And when the results of yet another math test came back with a big red F marked across the top, Ethan simply crumpled the paper, shoved it into his backpack, and walked out into the hallway to be alone. That afternoon, the school was unusually quiet. Most students had already gone home, and Ethan sat slumped on the floor near the lockers, staring at the ceiling as if searching for answers there. His father would soon get the report, and the shouting would begin again. He braced himself for it: the accusations of laziness, the threats of being sent away to another boarding school, the endless lectures about how the son of a billionaire couldn't afford to be a fool. His hands trembled as he rubbed his face, trying not to cry. Just then, he heard the squeak of wheels rolling across the polished floor. He looked up to see Mr. Thomas, the school janitor, pushing his cleaning cart, humming softly to himself. Mr. Thomas was a tall, older black man with kind eyes and rough, calloused hands. Students rarely paid attention to him, except to laugh at his worn-out uniform or the way he spoke slowly, as if weighing each word. But Mr. Thomas noticed Ethan sitting there with his bag half open and his spirit clearly broken. He stopped, leaned on his mop, and asked in his calm, deep voice, "Son, why you sittin' out here like the world done ended?" Ethan tried to shrug it off. "You wouldn't understand," he muttered. "I fail everything. No matter how much they teach me, I can't learn. I'm just stupid." Mr. Thomas didn't move. He set the mop aside, crouched down beside Ethan, and looked him in the eye. Then he said something Ethan would never forget: "Boy, you ain't stupid. You just ain't found your way of learning yet. Don't you ever let nobody tell you what you ain't, when God's still busy showing you what you are." Ethan blinked, startled. No one had ever spoken to him like that. Not his father, not his teachers, not even his mother. Everyone had labeled him a failure, but this janitor, a man society overlooked every day, was telling him he wasn't broken. Ethan wanted to believe him, but the doubt was too heavy. "But I've tried. I keep failing," Ethan whispered. Mr. Thomas smiled gently. "Failure don't mean the end. It means you learning one way that don't work. You got to keep trying till you find the way that does. Look here, when I was your age, I couldn't read a single word. Folks called me dumb, said I'd never amount to nothing. But I kept at it. I read one word, then two, then a sentence. Took me years, but I learned. And now I can read any book I want. I'm still mopping these floors, but I'm proud, 'cause I ain't let nobody's opinion of me write my story." Ethan sat up straighter, his heart pounding in a way it hadn't before. For the first time, he thought, maybe I'm not hopeless. Maybe I just need a different way. Mr. Thomas pulled a piece of paper and pencil from his cart and showed Ethan how to break down problems differently. "See, you learn with your eyes, not with your ears," he observed after a few minutes. "You gotta see the problem, not just hear it." That was the beginning. For weeks after that day, whenever Ethan struggled, he would find Mr. Thomas in the hallway, and the janitor would show him tricks, drawings, simple methods that made learning less frightening. Slowly, something incredible happened. Ethan began to understand. Months later, the boy who once failed every exam was now passing. His math grades climbed first, then his English, then history. Teachers were shocked. His father couldn't believe it when the report card showed improvement. But Ethan knew the truth. It wasn't the expensive tutors or the pressure of wealth that saved him. It was the words of a man who mopped floors but carried wisdom worth more than gold. By the time Ethan graduated, he wasn't top of his class, but he was no longer at the bottom. He stood tall, diploma in hand, and as his father clapped with rare pride, Ethan's eyes searched the crowd until he found Mr. Thomas standing quietly at the back. Their eyes met, and Ethan's lips trembled as he mouthed, "Thank you." Years later, Ethan took over parts of his father's business. He became known not just as a billionaire's heir, but as a leader who listened, who gave opportunities to people others ignored. At a press conference, when asked what had changed his life, Ethan smiled and told the truth, "I once failed every test. But one day, a janitor taught me that failure isn't the end, it's just a lesson. Those words saved me." And somewhere far from the flashing cameras, Mr. Thomas continued mopping floors, smiling quietly, knowing that his wisdom had lit a fire that no failure could ever extinguish. If this story touched your heart, remember, sometimes the smallest words of encouragement can change someone's entire life. Don't ever underestimate the power of kindness. If you believe wisdom can come from anywhere, even from the most unexpected people, then share this story with someone who needs hope today. And if you're new here, hit the like, subscribe, and tap the bell icon so you never miss more real, life-changing stories from Kindness Vibes. Together, let's spread kindness, one story at a time.